Why your brain wants you to stay miserable. What if I told you that the biggest thing standing between you and a happier life isn't your job, your past, your relationships, or even your circumstances? What if it's the organ sitting inside your skull? Every single day, your brain pushes you toward worry. It makes painful memories feel stronger than happy ones. It convinces you to avoid change, even when your current life isn't making you happy. And it keeps pulling you back into habits you promised yourself you would leave behind. At first, that sounds almost cruel. Why would your own brain work against you? The answer is surprising. Your brain isn't trying to make you miserable. It's trying to keep you alive. And once you understand the difference, you'll start seeing patterns that have been quietly influencing your decisions for years. But before we get there, you need to understand one simple fact. Your brain has been solving the wrong problem for thousands of years. Most people grow up believing that the brain exists to make us happy. It doesn't. Its primary job has never been happiness. Its primary job is survival. Imagine waking up 100,000 years ago. There were no supermarkets, no hospitals, no police, no smartphones reminding you about your meetings. Every day was filled with uncertainty. A strange sound behind a tree could mean a predator. Eating the wrong berry could be fatal. Trusting the wrong stranger could cost you your life. The people who survived weren't necessarily the smartest. They weren't the happiest either. They were the ones who noticed danger before everyone else. The ones who expected something to go wrong. The ones who stayed alert. Generation after generation, evolution rewarded brains that could detect threats quickly. Not brains that could relax. Not brains that could enjoy the sunset. Not brains that constantly looked for happiness. Survival always came first. And although the world has changed dramatically, your brain hasn't had enough time to catch up. The software is ancient. The environment is completely new. Today, you're probably not running away from wild animals. But your brain still reacts as if danger could be hiding around every corner. Only now, the predators look different. An email from your boss. A negative comment online. An unexpected phone call. Someone leaving your message on read. Logically, you know these situations aren't life-threatening. But deep inside your brain, uncertainty still triggers the same survival systems that once protected your ancestors. Your heart beats a little faster. Your muscles become tense. Your attention narrows. Your brain starts searching for possible threats. Not because it's broken, because it's doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's asking one question. Could this be dangerous? And if the answer is even maybe, your brain wants your full attention. But survival isn't the most fascinating trick your brain plays on you. The next one affects almost every day of your life. And most people never notice it. Think about the last 7 days. Maybe someone complimented your work. Maybe you laughed with a friend. Maybe you enjoyed a great meal. Maybe you watched a beautiful sunset. Now think about one awkward conversation, one criticism, one embarrassing mistake. Which memory appeared first? For most people, it isn't the pleasant one. It's the uncomfortable one. That's because your brain has something psychologists call the negativity bias. Simply put, negative experiences grab your attention more easily than positive ones. Not because life is terrible, but because, throughout human history, ignoring danger was far more expensive than ignoring pleasure. Missing one beautiful flower never threatened your survival. Missing the snake hiding beside it could. Imagine two prehistoric humans walking through the same forest. One notices the colorful flowers. The other notices fresh animal tracks. Which one has a better chance of making it home? Evolution answered that question long ago. Over thousands of generations, the human brain became exceptionally good at remembering anything connected to danger. Fear, failure, rejection, pain, embarrassment. Those memories stayed because they increased the chances of surviving the next encounter. The problem is, that same system is still running today. That's why one rude comment can erase the emotional impact of 20 compliments. It's why one mistake can replay in your mind for years. It's why your attention naturally drifts toward problems, even during good days. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your mood. It's highlighting information it believes might protect you in the future. But here's where things become even more interesting. Once you understand this bias, you stop treating every negative thought as the truth. Instead, you begin asking a different question. Is this reality? Or is this just my brain trying to protect me? That single question changes everything. Because your brain isn't a perfectly objective narrator. It's a survival machine. And survival machines are designed to notice threats first, But even negativity bias isn't the biggest obstacle to change. There's another mechanism hiding beneath it. One that's responsible for why people stay in jobs they hate, why they remain in unhealthy relationships, why they repeat the same habits for years, even when they desperately want something different. And strangely enough, it has very little to do with fear. It has everything to do with energy. Because every single morning, before you're even fully awake, your brain asks one silent question: how can I make today require as little effort as possible? And the answer to that question quietly shapes your habits, your routines, and ultimately, your entire life. Your brain consumes an astonishing amount of energy. Even though it makes up only about 2% of your body weight, it uses roughly 20% of the energy your body produces. For an organ that never truly rests, efficiency isn't just useful, it's essential. So over millions of years, your brain evolved a simple strategy. Whenever possible, stop thinking and start repeating. Think back to the first time you learned to drive a car. At first, everything demanded your attention. You had to think about the mirrors, the pedals, the steering wheel, the speed, the traffic. Every decision required conscious effort. It was exhausting. But after enough practice, something incredible happened. You stopped thinking about driving. Now you can hold a conversation, listen to music, or think about tomorrow's meeting while your brain handles most of the driving automatically. That's not magic. It's efficiency. Your brain has turned a difficult task into an automatic program. And it does the same thing with almost everything else. The way you brush your teeth, the route you take to work, the way you respond to criticism, the foods you eat, the thoughts you repeat, the habits you live by. The more often something happens, the less energy your brain has to spend on it. From a survival perspective, that's brilliant. But there's a hidden cost. Your brain doesn't care whether a habit makes you healthier or unhappier. It only cares whether it's familiar. Because familiar usually means predictable. And predictable has always meant safer than unknown. That's why people often stay inside routines that no longer serve them. Not because they enjoy them, but because those routines have become efficient. Think about your morning. How much of it do you actually choose? Do you consciously decide which hand picks up your toothbrush? Do you carefully think about how to tie your shoes? Do you deliberately choose every movement while making coffee? Probably not. Your brain has automated hundreds of small behaviors without asking for your permission. Now imagine that the same process happens with your emotional habits. How you react to stress, how quickly you become anxious, whether you assume the best or the worst, whether you avoid difficult conversations, whether you immediately reach for your phone the moment you feel bored. At some point, those reactions stopped being decisions. They became programs. One notices the colorful flowers. The other notices fresh animal tracks. Which one has a better chance of making it home? Evolution answered that question long ago. Over thousands of generations, the human brain became exceptionally good at remembering anything connected to danger. Fear, failure, rejection, pain, embarrassment. Those memories stayed because they increased the chances of surviving the next encounter. The problem is, that same system is still running today. That's why one rude comment can erase the emotional impact of 20 compliments. It's why one mistake can replay in your mind for years. It's why your attention naturally drifts toward problems, even during good days. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your mood. It's highlighting information it believes might protect you in the future. But here's where things become even more interesting. Once you understand this bias, you stop treating every negative thought as the truth. Instead, you begin asking a different question. Is this reality? Or is this just my brain trying to protect me? That single question changes everything. Because your brain isn't a perfectly objective narrator. It's a survival machine. And survival machines are designed to notice threats first. But even negativity bias isn't the biggest obstacle to change. There's another mechanism hiding beneath it. One that's responsible for why people stay in jobs they hate, why they remain in unhealthy relationships, why they repeat the same habits for years, even when they desperately want something different. And strangely enough, it has very little to do with fear. It has everything to do with energy. Because every single morning, before you're even fully awake, your brain asks one silent question: how can I make today require as little effort as possible? And the answer to that question quietly shapes your habits, your routines, and ultimately, your entire life. Here's one of the strangest truths about the human mind. Your brain will often choose familiar pain over uncertain happiness. That sounds irrational. After all, why would anyone stay in a situation that makes them unhappy? Why stay in a job you dread every morning? Why remain in a relationship that's been falling apart for years? Why keep repeating habits you know are holding you back? From the outside, the answer seems obvious. Just leave. Start over. Do something different. But your brain isn't comparing happiness to unhappiness. It's comparing certainty to uncertainty. And for most of human history, uncertainty was dangerous. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a dark forest. You can either stay where you are, even if you're uncomfortable, or step into a place you've never been before. Your logical mind might see opportunity. Your survival brain sees risk. It asks questions like, what if it gets worse? What if we fail? What if we lose everything we already have? Notice something. It rarely asks, what if this changes your life for the better? Because optimism never kept our ancestors alive as reliably as caution did. Your brain isn't designed to predict the best possible future. It's designed to prepare for the worst possible one. And that brings us to another powerful force shaping your decisions every day. Psychologists call it loss aversion. In simple terms, losing something usually hurts more than gaining something of equal value feels good. Imagine I offered you a simple bet. Flip a coin. If you win, you receive $100. If you lose $100. Most people say no, not because the odds are unfair, but because the emotional weight of losing feels heavier than the excitement of winning. Your brain performs calculations like this constantly. Without your awareness, every major decision carries invisible questions. What if I regret leaving this job? What if the next relationship is even worse? What if I fail? What if people judge me? Your brain focuses on the possible loss first, not because it's negative, because that's exactly what it evolved to do. Here's the irony. While you're busy imagining everything that could go wrong if you change, your brain often ignores the cost of staying exactly where you are. A year passes, then another. Nothing changes. You become more comfortable, not because life has improved, but because your brain has adapted. The uncomfortable becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes normal. That's one reason people wake up 10 years later wondering where the time went. They weren't making one huge decision every day. They were making thousands of tiny automatic ones. And together, those tiny choices quietly became a life. Think about the last time you checked your phone. Did you unlock it because you knew something important was waiting? Probably not. You checked because something might be waiting. A new message, a funny video, a like, an email, some tiny surprise. Your brain loves possibilities, especially uncertain ones. In fact, unpredictable rewards often keep us engaged longer than rewards we can fully predict. That's one reason it's so difficult to stop refreshing your inbox, or checking notifications, or scrolling one more time. Every swipe carries a silent question. Maybe this time. But here's something even stranger. If dopamine pushes us toward rewards, why doesn't achieving our biggest goals make us permanently happy? Think about something you once believed would change your life forever. Getting accepted into your dream school, landing your first serious job, buying your first car, moving into a new home, falling in love. For a while, it felt incredible. Then, slowly, it became normal, not because those achievements stopped mattering, but because your brain had already begun searching for the next target. And once you understand why that happens, you'll finally understand why so many people spend their entire lives chasing happiness, without ever feeling like they've caught it. So, if your brain keeps pulling you toward survival instead of happiness, is there anything you can actually do about it? The answer is yes. And it begins with one important realization. Your brain is not your enemy. For most of your life, it's been doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's been trying to protect you. The problem is that it's using ancient survival rules in a modern world. The same instincts that once helped your ancestors avoid predators now react to deadlines, awkward conversations, financial uncertainty, social media, and even the fear of being judged by people you'll probably never meet. Your brain doesn't always know the difference. But here's the incredible thing about the human brain. It can change. This ability is called neuroplasticity. For a long time, scientists believed that once the brain finished developing, it became relatively fixed. Today, we know that's not true. Your brain is constantly changing. Every experience, every conversation, every skill you practice, every habit you repeat, leaves a small mark. Think of your brain like a network of trails through a forest. The trails you use every day become wider and easier to follow. The trails you stop using slowly begin to disappear. Your thoughts work the same way. The more often you think a particular thought, the easier it becomes to think it again. If every challenge is followed by the thought, "I'm going to fail," that pathway grows stronger. If every mistake becomes proof that you're not good enough, that pathway becomes easier to access. Eventually, those thoughts feel automatic, not because they're true, but because they're familiar. And here's the mistake many people make. They wait until they feel motivated to change. But motivation is unpredictable. Some days you'll have it. Most days you won't. Your brain doesn't change because of one burst of inspiration. It changes because of repetition. Tiny actions, repeated consistently, reshape your automatic behavior. Imagine trying to move a massive ship in the middle of the ocean. You don't spin the wheel once and instantly change direction. You make a small adjustment, then another, and another. At first, it seems like nothing is happening, but miles later, you're heading somewhere completely different. Real change works the same way. Reading 10 pages every day, taking a 10-minute walk, putting your phone down 30 minutes before bed, having one difficult conversation you've been avoiding. These actions seem insignificant, but your brain notices repetition far more than intensity. Every time you repeat a healthier behavior, you're sending your brain a message. This matters. Keep this pathway. Eventually, the new behavior requires less effort. The uncomfortable becomes familiar. The unfamiliar becomes normal. And that's when lasting change begins. But perhaps the most powerful shift has nothing to do with habits. It has to do with your relationship with your own thoughts. Think about how many thoughts your brain generates every single day. Thousands. Some are useful. Some are creative. Some are completely meaningless. And some are driven by fear. Your brain predicts. It imagines. It remembers. It warns. That's its job. But a thought is not the same thing as reality. Just because your mind says, "You're going to embarrass yourself," doesn't mean you will. Just because it says, "You're not good enough," doesn't make it true. Just because it whispers, "It's too late," doesn't mean the opportunity is gone. One of the most powerful questions you can ever ask yourself is this: is this a fact, or is this my brain trying to protect me? That single question creates distance. Instead of automatically believing every thought, you begin observing it. And the moment you observe a thought, instead of obeying it, you regain something incredibly valuable: choice. Your brain may generate fear, but it cannot force your next action. Your brain may predict failure, but it cannot decide your future. Only you can do that. Today we've uncovered something surprising. Your brain notices danger faster than comfort. It remembers criticism more than compliments. It values certainty over possibility. It builds habits to save energy. It keeps searching for the next reward. And sometimes, those same survival systems leave you feeling anxious, stuck, or never quite satisfied. None of this means you're broken. It means you're human. You carry inside your head a brain that evolved for a world that no longer exists. A world where survival depended on expecting the worst. But today, survival is no longer enough. The challenge of modern life isn't simply staying alive. It's learning how to live well. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. Happiness isn't something your brain automatically gives you. It's something you build. Every time you question an automatic thought. Every time you choose growth instead of comfort. Every time you take one small step outside the familiar. Your brain wrote the first draft of your story, but it doesn't have to write the ending. That part is still in your hands. And if you've ever wondered why certain thoughts keep replaying in your mind, why some memories refuse to fade, and why overthinking can feel impossible to escape, the next video uncovers the hidden neuroscience behind intrusive thoughts and rumination. Because once you understand why your brain refuses to let go, you'll stop fighting your mind and finally learn how to work with it.